Welcome to another edition of the All Cardinals Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening every week. My name is Donnie, Druin, joined by Richie Bradshaw. Richie, I just said every week, but it's actually been quite the minute since we last recorded. Your entire setup has changed and quite frankly looks very, very beautiful. Forks up, my guy. How are you?
I'm good. I grew out the beard. I don't know if you noticed or not, but since the last podcast, I decided to grow out my beard. So
cool. Yeah. How's the biker gang going?
Biker gang's going good. You know, we're getting ready to shoot Sons of Anarchy season 14, so we're looking forward to it.
You know, I never watch that. My wife is a very, very big fan of this show. Understandably so. I think there's a lot of really, really good looking guys in that show. But overall, I've heard there's a lot of really good storylines in it.
Unpopular take. I've tried. I would love to give it another try. The first time I just couldn't get myself into it, and I'm like ashamed because I feel like that's something that I could really, really like because I love like Breaking Bad and stuff like that. But you know, this isn't a podcast about Sons of Anarchy, Donnie. This is a podcast about the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, who have found themselves in quite a bit of anarchy since the 2022 regular season came to an end. A brand new front office, a brand new coaching staff. And Richie, I feel like they seem to stay in the headlines for all of the wrong reasons. I mean, that could be an entire separate episode of the things they have done and the things that have come out about them. But a couple of different things to talk about today. We got the NFL draft 10 days away from today whenever we are recording this on Monday. I think I'll be publishing this on the website either Monday night or Tuesday. Haven't decided yet. Most importantly, though, Budda Baker a couple of days ago did request a trade from the Arizona Cardinals. A whole lot of different angles to break down from that perspective. First and foremost, whenever you saw the notification, what were just your initial thoughts?
You know, I don't think it's overly surprising. And I think the biggest reason for this is probably the fact that the Cardinals are going through such a massive remodel. We're not talking about a new head coach or a new GM. We're talking both. We could be looking at new ownership within the next handful of years, depending on what ends up happening with everything that's going on. This is a team that's going to be picking in the top 5 of the next 2, maybe even 3 drafts, like to rebuild and get everything back on track. And Budda Baker hasn't experienced a lot of winning. So I understand from a perspective of maybe wanting to go, but the other caveat here is that it sounds like Budda wants a new contract, and rightfully so. Now, there's people out there that have talked about how, you know, he just signed a deal. Well, he didn't just sign a deal. It's been 3 years since that deal, and people got to realize that deals are so quickly becoming irrelevant. Like they're one up every year, Donnie. There's a new highest paid safety. There's a new highest paid quarterback. There's a new
Jalen Hurts was made the highest paid quarterback in NFL history today, and that'll be overshadowed by whenever Joe Burrow gets paid,
or Lamar Jackson, or Justin Herbert, or Tua Tagovailoa. Like there's constantly reshuffling. And for what it's worth, Budda Baker is only 27 years old. Like there's still plenty of reason for him to want to get a new contract. Like the state of the world was so different in 2020 compared to what it was. Not just talking about like Budda when he signed his contract, but Budda the player was very different. This is a guy who didn't have any interceptions in his career heading into this contract extension. He had gone his first 3 years without an interception, Donnie, and they paid him for being a great safety. And since then, he's not only continued to be a great safety, but the ball production is there now. He's got 7 interceptions. He's been in the backfield plenty of times. He's made plays. Like this is a dude who has outperformed the contract he is on and deserves an extension, right, wrong, or indifferent. Like I think that people need to realize we need to get past the point of he still has time on his contract. It doesn't matter. That NFL is gone. It's over. These guys typically aren't playing out these contracts anymore. So for people to get frustrated with the whole, well, he still has years left on his deal. Well, now he's being underpaid compared to what the market rate is going for. So again, I say right, wrong, or indifferent, Budda has every right to ask for a new contract. If people are upset about it, they can get over it. Hopefully they can understand that this is just today's NFL. And I'm sorry if you don't like it, but that's the way that it is. This is completely understandable from multiple different aspects that I just pointed out for Budda Baker. It makes sense. Does it suck? Of course it sucks. This is arguably the best player that I almost said Sun Devils. This is arguably the best player that the Cardinals have right now. Like you can't be happy about losing a player of Budda Baker's caliber, but it's going to happen when you go through a rebuild that the Cardinals are going through right now.
Yeah, and I think what's really fun to me is whenever people try to compare their normal job to an NFL player's job / contract. And it's like, well, if I signed a contract for 2 years and I wanted a new contract, they would fire me. It's like, okay, but like 70,000 people don't pack a stadium to watch you every Sunday. You know, like the industry you are in, you yourself are not helping generate billions of dollars.
People don't have shirts with your last name on it.
Yeah. Not to say that the NFL players' jobs are more important to anybody's, but just in terms of
apples to oranges,
the entertainment industry. I mean, people work at daily jobs, and then they want to escape by paying their hard-earned money to go watch football players play. I mean, that's kind of just the basic economics of it. There's a very big like family understanding behind, you know, getting together with your friends, like watching a football game, cheering on the same team, buying jerseys, buying, you know, stuff that, you know, we have in our own backgrounds, all that other cool stuff. That aside, though, I don't think it's shocking for a lot of Cardinals fans if you've been paying close attention to the team. Talking is hard today because Schefter said apparently back in February, Budda went into the organization, was like, hey, like, I have no guaranteed money left the last 2 years of the deal. As you see on the screen, he's due $13 million, about $14.2 million, none of it guaranteed before he hits the open market in 2025. Make me the highest paid safety or I'm going to leave. And I feel like, considering where the team is at, if you're going to ask a player of the caliber of Budda Baker, who has stuck through this organization through very, very tough times, if you're going to ask him to stick around for this rebuild, if I'm Budda, yeah, you're going to have to pay a price tag to keep me here. Now, it sucks because exactly for what I said, Budda, for better or worse, has stuck through some really bad football here. And no matter how the Cardinals were playing, no matter what their record was, each and every Sunday, he showed up and he gave his all for Cardinals fans. And that's something they haven't exactly seen, I think, since like Larry left. Probably, right? I can't really remember a guy who personified what Cardinals fans want their football team to be than Budda Baker. And to see him say, hey, I won out, that sucks. That's a shitty feeling that like a lot of football fans should not ever want to feel. So I get that aspect of it. I get Budda wanting to be out, but I also get the Cardinals not wanting to pay him. Richie, if you're going through a rebuild, and we've said this time and time again, if you are going to rebuild, do it right. And doing it right includes not making anybody on your roster the highest paid whatever, not the water boy, not the kicker, not the head coach, not the starting safety. You are not going to be competing in at minimum the next 2 years. If you're doing this thing right, you are not going to be competing in the next couple years. Why on God's green earth would you make Budda Baker the highest paid safety?
Here's my thing. If Budda was in his 30s, this is a complete non-negotiable, like, yeah, this is definitely a guy you got to let go. But again, he is 27. He's still in the prime of his career. I can understand wanting to keep him, but at the same time, I echo what you said. And I mean, like, I will verbatim echo, if you're trying to do this right, if you're trying to do this rebuild correctly, you can't make anybody the highest paid player at X position. Not the safety, not a receiver, not a tackle, not a linebacker, nothing. Short of you drafting these guys, right? Let's say they draft Will Anderson this year, and in 3 years, when he's eligible for a contract extension, let's say you're still bad, but he's been an all-pro, then yes, you make him the highest paid. But right now you're looking at the roster that you currently have. Budda Baker is probably not a part of that future, for better or for worse. And they need to understand that there's going to be difficult decisions that need to be met. With that being said, Budda is worth being the highest paid safety in football. He truly is.
Yes.
No matter any way you cut it, this is a lock for a top 10 safety. This is a really good argument for top 5 safety. A still good argument for top 3, and I'll listen to an argument for the best in the entire league. Budda is that guy. Like, it's just, unfortunately, you're in a situation where you can't afford to hold on to anyone. And here I'll spin that whole 27-year-old thing to the Cardinals' perspective. Like, this is a 27-year-old safety that is looking to get out, and there are a lot of teams that would love to add Budda Baker. Green Bay, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, like teams that are competing, Dallas, Philly, they Miami, would love to add Miami. They would love to add a player of Budda Baker's caliber to their team to help take them over the top and to the next step. You strike when the iron is hot, and Budda Baker's value is not going to be any better than it is right now. You could get a day 2 pick out of Budda, and a good day 2 pick. Like, potentially more. I don't know what the NFL is willing to pay for a safety, but when we're talking about a 27-year-old safety in their prime, yeah, I think a day 2 pick is more than movable for a guy of Budda Baker's caliber.
Yeah, that's something Monday Morning Quarterbacks Albert Breer pointed out in his mailbag today, is that apparently one NFC executive told him that the Cardinals are probably going to try to get a second or third round pick for them. Very understandable. Apparently, it would have been more if he wasn't asking for a new contract. Like we already pointed out earlier, no guaranteed money the final 2 years of his current deal, $13 and $14 million annually for the type of things Budda Baker can do, because Budda can line up at the traditional safety spot. He can line up in the box. He can cover slot receivers. He can cover big tight ends. He does a little of everything for you. His ability to rush the passer, coming off the edge as a blitzer, phenomenal. He's very, very physical. And then you just talk about the leadership, what he brings to a football team in the locker room. A lot of times you can't draft, you can't really replicate. And that's what sucks, because if you're the Cardinals and you're the Cardinals fans, you want a guy like Budda for his rebuild. You want a guy like Baker to be in the locker room with this young, new crop of players trying to turn his franchise around. You want him in there to try to show them the way and try to show them how certain things are supposed to be done. And now it really does not look like Budda is going to be on the football team in 2023. I think a day 2 pick would be just about where his market value should be. Right. If somebody, and let's say things are getting a little low, just in terms of the trade market value, if somebody comes through with like a third round pick during the draft, it might be hard to turn it away, because you don't want to do Budda a disservice by keeping him on the roster whenever he clearly wants to raise and he clearly wants to go win a ring too. I think that might be forgotten in all the contract talk, is that he wants to go win a Super Bowl. And I think more than anything, Cardinals fans want Budda Baker to win a Super Bowl, whether it's with their team or with another. And it just sucks it's not going to be here in the desert.
Absolutely. And one more thing I want to echo on with this whole Budda thing is, I feel like there are some people who are having flashbacks of Patrick Peterson when they look at the way that Budda Baker is asked for a trade. I have seen those comparisons. Those are not warranted whatsoever. Nor are they anywhere even remotely accurate. Budda requested the trade in February. We found out about it April 16th, 2022. 2, maybe even 2.5 months after he requested it. He has not been on other podcasts. He has not been on his own podcast, if he has one. He has not been on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or whatever have you, talking that ish about the Cardinals. He has been nothing but respectful. In fact, after the news was finally broken to us yesterday, what's he do? He goes on Twitter and he says, "I love the Cardinal fans." How can you be mad at Budda, man? Like, I understand if you want to be frustrated in the moment. Totally fine. Totally understandable. I can appreciate that as a fan myself, that when a player that I love is wanting to leave the organization. When Lamar Jackson for my Baltimore Ravens said that he requested a trade, that broke my heart. But you know what? I get it. I can be in the moment and understand. But to compare Budda Baker to the arc that Patrick Peterson has placed himself on, to the point where Peterson's going to be in the Hall of Fame one day, and I don't even know if I'm comfortable calling him a Cardinal all time with the way that is all unfolded. To compare those two is it's a lot of words that I don't want to say on a podcast. Yeah. But bottom line, Cardinal fans, you got to cheer for this dude. He is giving you everything. He has played through injuries. He has played as a special teamer and earned his way to starting status. I don't see any feasible way you can hate Budda Baker. And if you do, that's shallow. I call a spade a spade.
Yeah, and I feel like for the most part, a lot of Cardinals fans have been very, very good about wanting Budda to just be in a successful spot, whether that's in Arizona or somewhere else. I haven't seen too much of the negative Budda press on social media. or just even by talking to people. So, thankfully, I feel like that's not a terribly big problem, but I feel like you're going to run into those, certain people just anywhere, regardless of the fan base or the situation. Watching Budda fight through a high ankle sprain, playing the next week, and then a little bit later down the road in the season, when the Cardinals were far out of the playoffs, what do you do? He either separated his shoulder or he broke his shoulder in the first quarter of the game, and then finished the game, and then eventually was put on injured reserve with a couple weeks left in the season. How can you hate him? How can anything negative, if you're a Cardinals fan, leave your mouth when you talk about Budda Baker?
There shouldn't be anything like that at all. It would be completely irresponsible and borderline childish. I fall very passionately with this conversation, if no one has picked up on that yet. If you truly find a way to hate Budda Baker for this, I just don't respect that opinion. I really, truly do not respect it.
What will be interesting to monitor is both the status of Budda Baker and DeAndre Hopkins during the 2023 NFL Draft, which is 10 days away from today, Monday, April 17th. We talked like a month or two ago, and I got your general gauge, your temperature on how you felt about the draft for the Cardinals moving into it. We're getting close. We're getting very, very close. The trade speculation rumor mill starting to slow down a little bit. If you're the Cardinals, how do you feel about this draft?
I feel like I'm in a really good position to benefit myself for 2024. I feel like I'm in a good position to set myself up for success, not this year, the following year. And I'm not talking about wins and losses. I'm talking about turning this thing around. I don't know how many scenarios there are for the Cardinals where they walk out of this draft with the best class of 32 teams. I don't know what you would do, because you could take Will Anderson at 3 and that would be a great start, but then you don't have the cumulative other picks that you could have stacked if you traded down. And if you do trade down, how far are you trading down? Are you trading down from 3 to 7 with the Raiders? Are you trading down from 3 to 11 with the Titans? Are you trading down from 3 to 19 with Tampa? I don't know that there's any scenario where the Cardinals walk out not this Saturday, the following Saturday at the conclusion of the 2023 NFL Draft, and you sit there and you go, the Cardinals are the biggest winners of this draft. However, I think that with trading DeAndre and trading Budda and trading the number 3 pick, you have the potential to set yourself up for a massively successful 2024 draft or even a 2025 draft by gathering those assets. Let's say in a best case scenario, like this absolute best case scenario, Pittsburgh calls you and offers you 32 for Budda Baker. You take that 100%, don't even think about it. You move on. Yeah. And then you find a way to auction off that pick and value it off and just continue to accumulate assets for yourself and trading down from 3 to, I'll say 11 with Tennessee. And you get a couple future first round picks and stuff like that. You may not walk out of 2023 with the best draft, but you could walk out of 2023 with a ton of assets for future drafts that look really good, because I know we're guilty of always going the next draft class is better, but 2024 has a lot more elite level talents than this year does. This year has a lot of solid players with some intriguing upside. Next year, you've got, God forbid, you've got potentially 3 blue chip quarterback prospects. You've got Marvin Harrison Jr. and Brock Bowers and tons of offensive linemen. I think this needs to be a draft that's focused on stocking up for the future and not so much worrying about how it's going to translate in 2023.
Yeah, I think I agree with your point that they're not going to walk away as the biggest winners from the 2023 NFL draft, but man, it's going to be awfully hard for them not to be dubbed as a winner.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
No. I'm not saying if they don't walk away as the top dog from the draft, it's
they're losers, right? That's not what I'm trying to say.
No. But the points you made with the opportunities they have in front of them, with the potential trade chips that they do have, it's going to be very hard for them to not walk out of draft weekend feeling really good about themselves.
Precisely.
Obviously, this is the Arizona Cardinals we're talking about, but brand new front office, brand new head coach. They've done all of the other parts of the rebuild right so far, but now's time to earn your money. Now is the time for you to really kickstart this rebuild and to really get things going, not for 2023, but for 2024 and potentially beyond. I don't know if you saw today, but Adam Schefter put out a report that there's been a really kind of consensus group think that there's going to be running quarterbacks from pick 1 to pick 4, which obviously includes Arizona at number 3, working under the assumption that they're going to trade out. Apparently, he said that's not going to be the case, and he said he feels as if Bryce Young is taken at number 1 in Carolina, which kind of looks to be the pick right now. He canceled all of his other NFL visits, and the word's getting out that Carolina really, really likes Bryce Young.
Those odds are shooting up.
Yep. Schefter reported that the Colts at number 4 might get their pick of the second best quarterback just by staying there. Yeah. And what's crazy about that, Richie, is there's been a lot of smoke about the Texans at number 2 not taking a quarterback and taking Will Anderson, which I think would benefit the Cardinals greatly. I think the value of pick number 3, if CJ Stroud is available on that board,
Donnie,
through the roof.
It skyrockets.
But with Schefter's thinking, a quarterback doesn't go at 3. I don't think the Cardinals stick at number 3 and take Jalen Carter. Maybe they take Tyree Wilson, but they know they can trade down a couple picks and still get him. I mean, it's hard to envision a scenario where the Cardinals stay at 3 and then don't take Will Anderson. Also, adding on to that, we did a podcast probably 2 months ago now where we pounded the table that the Cardinals needed to stay at 3 and take Will Anderson. I'm not sure if your thoughts on that has changed at all. I think I'm all in on trading down. 1, because I know it's going to happen. I got confirmation it's going to happen. It's only a matter of where. 2, 2023 is not going to be the year like we already talked about. 2024 and beyond is kind of where the Cardinals need to be looking. And I mean, if you, for example, in your scenario, you trade down with Tennessee, if you can get 2 future first-round picks, you run to the podium. You sprint, you moonwalk, you do however you feel you can get there fastest to make that trade official. And then you still get some really, really good top talent on top of building assets for the future. I just think there's so many great scenarios that can happen for the Cardinals. It's going to be so hard for them to mess it up.
Thankfully, it's not a Steve Keim run team anymore, because otherwise I would almost guarantee you that they would somehow find a way to mess it up. But for now, we give Monty Ossenfort the benefit of the doubt. And man, that's got to be best case scenario is Bryce Young goes 1. And well, I think best case would probably be Stroud going 1 and Will Anderson going 2. But in this scenario, we'll say it's Young and Anderson, first 2 picks. Whoever is interested in getting ahead of Indianapolis to get the second quarterback in this draft, you're talking multiple first-round picks. Even if Indy wanted to move up 1 spot to secure their guy,
do you think
I'm getting a future fit? I'm getting a future first. That is a non-negotiable. If Ballard and the Colts want their guy and they want to make sure that a division rival like Tennessee doesn't hop them, or God forbid Houston decides to come up and get a quarterback and Will Anderson, like you've got 2 division rivals you got to worry about. You got to worry about the Falcons. You got to worry about the Raiders. You got to worry about I said the Falcons. That I feel like that might be it. Maybe something crazy like
the
Tampa
Lions are at 6. I'm not sure. I'm not sure Detroit is like gung ho on trading up for a guy. I think I think they want to run it back with Jared for 1 more year, and then kind of see where the chips fall, which is very, very smart at this point.
Right, but
like. Off topic really quick, Detroit's doing a really good job with their rebuild over there.
They've nailed it. And it helps that Jared Goff has played as well as he has, but what a surprise when you surround him with Amon-Ra St. Brown and potentially Jameson Williams when he's 100% healthy, and some of the other targets that they've acquired for him and will continue to acquire for him. Like, yeah, they're doing a great job. But anyways, for the Cardinals, and trying to get like Indy to trade up. Like I would use that leverage of like, I've got a phone call from your division rivals willing to come up. I'm not telling you got to match their offer of like 2 future firsts, but I'm going to need at least one, like you might be able to really, really gauge the value of the third round pick. And even the move down one spot, you could potentially get a future first out of it if only one quarterback goes. If 2 go, if I'm Indy, I'm not giving you a future first. Like, I think that's probably, if you're a Cardinal fan and you want a trade down, you will be rooting for Will Anderson to be the number 2 pick. Because if he is the number 2 pick, good Lord, you're going to cash out. It's going to be one of the fattest trades in the history of the NFL draft.
Now, let's say they move down to a team with Atlanta, picking there at number 7. I mean, dude, because you kind of get like the happy medium there to where you still trade down, you still get future assets, but like there's still a chance to grab like a top tier player. Christian Gonzalez from Oregon is the first player that crosses my mind. I feel like if you're able to get like future draft assets, I'm not too concerned about 2023, but if you get some like significant stuff for next year, when like the Falcons aren't going to be great, the Titans aren't going to be great, like really none of these teams picking in the top 10 are not going to be just like perennial playoff team that are going to like get you high picks in the first and the second round. Dude, I am so content with only moving down a couple spots and maybe getting Wilson, maybe getting Gonzalez, maybe getting Witherspoon. There's still like that like happy medium of like, okay, well, not that these are leftover guys, but after Will Anderson's off the board, for example, I mean, it's pretty much anybody's guess as to the second half of the top 10, assuming quarterbacks do go 1, maybe 2, maybe 3, and then definitely number 4. And then maybe even number 5, because Seattle's doing work on quarterbacks too. And I feel like that's not necessarily talked about enough.
Let me ask you a question.
No. I know what you're going to ask. No.
No matter what they offered?
Dude, could you live with yourself if they pick up the phone and they're like, hey, we want to move up and we want to get CJ Stroud, and CJ Stroud capitalizes on like the talent and the potential he has, and you have to face that dude twice a year knowing you handed them the keys? Dude, it's got to be some like draft day movie.
What if it's
type
something
offer.
Absurd where they offer you 3 first-round picks, a second, and David Putney or something? If no one picks up on this, by the way, the question I was proposing to Donnie is, if Seattle calls you, do you listen to any conversation to let them move up to 3?
Dog, that'd be so tough.
Dude, you would have to blow me away. Like because again, I agree with you 100%. There's no way I'm doing that because it's a quarterback. If they offered me, oh my God, 6 picks, you gotta think about it.
No, absolutely. Here's the thing that sucks too, because whenever Arizona does move down, some talent is sliding to Seattle, whether that's Jalen Carter or Will Anderson. Somebody's getting there that you're going to have to face twice a year that you potentially could have taken, but you opted not to. Now, you're not going to draft a player at number 3 just so the Seattle Seahawks don't draft him. That's really bad business.
That's the worst thing you could possibly do. See what the Chicago Bears tried to do for like the early 2010s.
Yep.
They're drafting guys ahead of Green Bay.
That's tough.
That.
I could not do it. Like you said, it'd have to be first this year, second this year, and then the next 2 years of first and second round picks to begin that conversation.
Yeah.
And then maybe we can go from there.
We can settle it with this. It's not going to happen. It's not worth the conversation. It's just one of those fun little like, well, what would you do kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
If we're being serious, Arizona's not going to pick up that call if Seattle's trading up for a quarterback. If they're trading up for Jalen Carter or Will Anderson, maybe you listen because it's not a quarterback.
Right, but like here's the thing. Why would Seattle, knowing a quarterback is going to go at either 3 or 4, make the move for somebody like Anderson or Carter,
Yep. No, it makes 0% chance. It's just, this is a podcast and we're here to talk about stupid scenarios, and this is a stupid scenario.
It's literally all we talk about is stupid scenarios.
Don't worry. Timestamp, if you want to skip ahead, is about 29 minutes and 50 seconds if you want to get past me and Donnie BSing.
I actually think that is the perfect place to wrap up here. We did talk about a lot of good stuff today with Budda Baker, with the 2023 NFL Draft. Richie, before we go, I think by next time we record, the Cardinals are going to unveil their new uniforms. Do you have any expectations or hopes for those?
Just don't do something that feels like you're trying to make it new. And what I mean by that is like when
the Falcons.
Yes, but the Falcons is absolutely the first team I think of where it was like you had something great. You didn't need to do a lot to it. Like, did they need to do new uniforms? In my opinion, no. I loved the Falcons' old uniforms, but obviously this is money that we're talking about, and new jerseys is new money. But anyways, the Falcons is exactly what you don't want to do, is try and make it too modern or too like abstract. The other thing that worries me, and I don't think we'll ever have to see this again, but if we do, I'm going to gouge my eyes out, is the alarm clock numbering that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had a handful of years ago. I remember when they first came out, I was like, that's not bad. And then I actually saw it and I was like, that's terrible. That is really, really bad. Like, you don't want to overthink this. New jerseys is such a great marketing opportunity for you. And I mean, you've already done a really good step in the right direction with those black red helmets that they have that are just, those are so cool. If you can find a way to play off of that, I don't know how you do it, but incorporate the blacks and the reds. The color rush the Cardinals have is awesome. If you can find a way to play around with something similar, I think you're going to find success. But if you try and be too different and outside of the box, you're going to wind up with Falcons uniforms. And that's not a compliment at all.
No, so according to a couple different reports, the new helmets are supposed to be a little bit more of like a modern look to them. I think the bird logo is staying the same, which, by the way, big fan of the logo. I think the logo looks sick. I think they should not touch that at all.
Logo does not need to change.
Nope. To your point about the black helmets with like the red speckles in them, apparently that's kind of the look the new white helmet gives off. I think they should stick with the white helmets. I think it looks sick. The gray face mask.
I like the black as an alternate.
The gray face mask is kind of whatever to me. I would need to see like a red or like a black or just white on it just to see how I like it. Just do not go the Atlanta Falcons route. There is so much potential with red, black, and white uniforms. It is going to be so hard to mess these up. It's so incredibly hard to mess these up. And Nike just always finds a way to either hit a home run or just completely swing and miss. And that's kind of what worries me.
I don't know if this is a hot take or not. But can you copy paste what the Jets did? Because I thought they knocked their uniforms out of the park. And something similar for the Cardinals, incorporating like the black with the red numbering. Oh, Donnie, that's it. That's the love.
I think if you go black on black, I was not a fan of the black jersey with the white pants. I was not. I'm much more of a like a color rush, like black with the red numbers and like the black pants with the red stripe down the side kind of deal.
I think the Cardinals did a good job on their black jerseys when they came out, because you got to remember those came out in like the mid to late 2000s. Like I think Warner was still there, and like they were good for what they were, but obviously it's been close to 15 years. They're just outdated uniforms at this point. Like they're boring. But again, don't reinvent the wheel. Like there's a way to do this, to have more exciting uniforms without just putting together some cringeworthy material that an 8th grader in graphic design put together when he was bored one night.
Nope. I agree. So keep it simple, keep it somewhat modern. If you can find a way to incorporate a state flag somewhere where it's not crazy prominent but still kind of visible and gives a nod to the sunburst logo with the star on it, great. If not, oh well. I think that's Thursday, so fans listening to this will find out in a couple of days, and I'm sure we'll hop on for probably 5 or 10 minutes and kind of just give our non-fashion industry takes to the new looks. But until then, thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of the All Cardinals Podcast. Go to follow me on Twitter at Donnie Druin. Follow Richie on Twitter at RichieBrads36. We will see you next time. Budda Baker may or may not be on the Cardinals, and the Cardinals may or may not be picking at number 3. Until then, see ya.